Recording in progress.
How many months has it been, or years maybe?
I was gonna say the proper measure.
Hey folks, how y'all doing?
It's been since the charter was passed. It's gotta be a year and a half.
Hey, Hannah, we can't start our videos because the host has stopped it.
Let me get to that. Hang on 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a line through it.
Hey, everybody, I'm with you. I'll be on
There
camera
we
in a few
go.
minutes.
Hey, everybody.
Sounds good.
Tim, just before we get started, just quick intros here. Maybe you want to do it after we get started too. It's up to you, but Kyle Claus is.
Yeah, if you want, we can do the intros now before we start. Sure.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, there might be a small lag happening, but.
There is.
So Kyle Claus is here. He is the new assistant city attorney for the city of Burlington. Kyle and I met a couple of weeks ago. He just started about a month ago. Well, not even a month ago. Working at the city attorney's office. He was here just about all day today, getting a tour and understanding of the airport. So we're happy to have him on board. And then Stephen, maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephen Gulick. Been in Burlington since 1983. Came here because I got into the Guard, so I flew a little bit of F4s, F-16s. Got out after about 12 and a half years flying for them. Got hired by American Airlines. Been flying for American for about 30 years. Married, 2 kids. Getting close to retirement, so looking for new ways to fill my time.
And a new airport commissioner as of what, weeks ago or somewhere around that.
So
First meeting.
Excellent.
And then Deputy Mayor Jim Duncan as well from the city of Winooski. Jim, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jim Duncan, as you mentioned, Deputy Mayor of Winooski. I've been on the City Council for close to 4 years now, and I've lived in Winooski almost 10. Grew up in Essex before that, so excited to be joining the commission, and yeah, appreciate the welcome.
Great, thank you. It's good to see our commission at full strength for the first time in quite some time, and not have to worry so much about quorum and videos dropping off and all of that good stuff. So thank you everyone for being today, and welcome to our newest commissioners. So with that said, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Airport Commission at 4:10 p.m. The first item on the agenda is the agenda itself. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
That's moved by Helen. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Greg. Any proposed modifications to the agenda before I call the question? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? We have an agenda. Item 3 is public forum. I can't see if there's anyone online. Hannah, is there?
There's not.
And there's nobody there. Was Kyle, you wanted to say anything in public forum today?
Yes, I just want to say hello. I had a fantastic tour of the airport this morning with Nick, just going over every nook and cranny of the airport. It was extremely interesting. I especially enjoyed the history aspect of it. Didn't realize that Amelia Earhart traveled this way all that often. So that was very cool. And yeah, just very excited to work with you all. And if I can be of any help in any way, please let me know.
Sounds great. Thank you, Kyle. So we will now close up public forum. We'll move to item 4, which is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt the contents of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Helen. Is there a second?
Second.
Robin seconds. Discussion on the contents of the consent agenda. Nick, do you want to start off?
Sure, I think for our new commissioners, it might make sense to just present the report that you see here, and maybe you share.
Sure.
This. So every month, although there's a slight delay in the passenger traffic numbers that we receive and report, you're going to see our total number of passengers on an annual basis and compared year over year. Right now, we're reporting November 2022, which is just over a 14% increase over November of last year. Last year's not a great indicator of where we are, especially pre-pandemic. Overall, we're still recovering our in-plane passengers or passenger boardings onto aircraft. And we're at approximately 88% of our total passengers since 2019, compared to 2019, I could say. So pre-pandemic numbers, which was our 10-year high of passenger accounts. Reason we track that most significantly is this is tied to revenue sources, both residual revenue, parking garage revenue, concession revenue, that sort of thing, as well as we track our aircraft maximum gross landed weight. That's a very large indicator of revenue for the airport, as we charge per 1,000 pounds of landed weight. Hence the reason you're going to see the first page of the report really going into some of the statistics year over year, month over month. You're going to see some of our past, both passenger landed weight as well as operational numbers compared to last year's numbers, and then some of the raw data associated on pages 2 and 3 with both passengers and landed weights year over year for the last, right now we're reporting the last 9 years of information on this report. So good recovery, and then the final page is garage utilization, which Shelby and Hannah report on, which is exactly that. How full is our garage average for that particular month? Of course, that's just an average. You're going to see lots of fluctuations if you look at it by the hour, by the day, by the week, et cetera, et cetera. But this just gives us a good indication of what that monthly average is. Anything else on that? That's it. That's it for me on the passenger and operational statistics.
Commissioners, any thoughts or observations on the contents of the consent agenda?
Going in the right direction.
In the right direction. Right.
Nick, just one question on the landed weight slide. I don't know if it's an issue with the legend in the chart, but because I think 2022 is like the dark blue line, but it doesn't show up in the legend of the chart.
Yep.
So if you can, just for next month, take a look at that and make any adjustments.
Perfect. Yes, we will. Yeah, I think they're off by one year.
I think that's what it is too. But.
Yeah. Yep.
Those blues are hard to
They're
distinguish.
similar.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially when it's in black
When
and
they're
white.
close, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yep, we can definitely adjust that, make it a little easier.
Okay. All right, commissioners, are we ready for the question? If so, all those in favor of approving the contents of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? That carries. So that completes item 4. Item 5, or action items 5.01 is a GSA lease agreement. Do I hear a motion to recommend the approval of amendment to an existing GSA lease agreement to accommodate the relocation of TSA offices at the airport?
So moved.
It's moved by Helen. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, I think that was I couldn't hear who that was. Okay.
Steven, yep.
Thank you, Stephen. Nick, discussion on this.
So this is as the subject states, this is an amendment to an existing lease that we currently have with the General Services Administration, who administers the leases, all federal leases. This one specifically for the Transportation Security Administration. So GSA managing TSA's lease. We negotiate directly with GSA, and this is a relocation of prior office space that used to be over here by our administration offices, and now is going to be essentially temporarily relocated to our very old administration offices, which is in the central portion of the terminal building. This prior office space has been vacant for close to 8 years, right? That's about right. 8 years. So we're now able to lease this space. It is almost double, or just slightly less than double the prior rental amount, total amount, the same rental rate, but total rental amount. You can see the numbers in the memo there. 38,000 was the prior lease annual revenue source, which entailed a few 4 office spaces. This new annual rent will be just over $63,000 a year. So there's an uptick on revenue for us as well. This isn't the total lease that we have with GSA. This is strictly just the differences between the office space near our existing admin space and this new proposed space that we're working with GSA to move TSA to. We're going to be putting in a small amount of expenses into this. We already actually have the amendment. We brought that to you, I think, last month and the month prior. So we are working on a bid package that's very strict criteria. Whenever we work with GSA, if you remember, Larry spent a massive amount of time negotiating and working with the contractual obligations for the National Weather Service. This is the same government entity that manages both of these spaces. As I mentioned earlier, this is a temporary move. Temporary meaning about 2 years. This existing lease expires at the end of 2024, at which point I am very interested to work with TSA and GSA to relocate TSA to a permanent location underneath the air traffic control building, which is mostly vacant at this particular time, and mostly vacant since mostly vacant at this time. That is a bidded process that's going to be later this year. There's no guarantees. We actually have to bid on supporting the process of TSA and relocating not just the folks that are in the office spaces here, but also potentially folks that are regionally within the office space. I think would make a very great fit for the airport to accommodate that. The reason I think it's very important that this space is temporary in our terminal building is the future of the terminal building and the expansion of the terminal building with our next phase of our north terminal project also consists of renovating the second floor, including the office space that these folks are moving into over the next 2 years. So the timing works out really well. There's additional revenue source for us as we design some of these elements, and it works really great for TSA to efficiently work their programs right here out of the terminal building for now. And that's it. Did I miss anything, Larry?
No, they do.
Commissioners, any questions for Nick?
No.
Nick, just one question. If the ultimate location is with air traffic control, why wouldn't they just move, and it's vacant now, why wouldn't they just move there now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there was a lot of negotiation, a lot of requirements that required both GSA and TSA's ability. Mostly, well, it's not all vacant over there, so there are other non-federal entities that lease space there, and it is essentially a shared lease building. So it's not a typical office space, even though there's some doors that close. There's shared bathrooms and shared hallway space and access points. And TSA really cannot allow that type of shared space to be
Okay.
used. And at this point, they cannot justify leasing the entire space until the full group kind of moves together to justify the expense to the government. Hence the reason why these pieces of timing are really important. Temporarily move up here just for these 4 offices that are displaced right now. And then once the other regional office that's expiring, which is the reason why we're so interested, once that expires or goes through the bidding process, then we can co-locate both of those together in the larger joint space, and they can lease the entirety of that space.
So the other tenants will be gone in 2
That's
years?
That's right. Some of them are month to month right now. Actually, both of them are month to month right now. So they'll be gone. And there's potential for other space for them, and not like a true real tie to the airport that they need to be here. There's other options for them.
Okay, good.
And we've talked to both of them already. They know it's going.
All right, commissioners, any other questions for Nick on this? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, that carries. Next up is item 6, construction update from Larry.
Okay, I think everybody received my report. I'll hit the highlights. For taxiway golf realignment, that was a large job we just finished last year. $19 million. Maria will report more on it later, but the only thing outstanding is because we closed up the project was about a $2.9 million check from the FAA. We did receive almost $2 million of that. 1 million of it was due to some amendments that were eligible that the funds need to come from another place. So we're just waiting on that last thing, but it's good to have that 1.9 million back in or close to that and back in our bank account. That's been hanging out there for a while, and she'll report on that a little bit more in her report when she gets here. The annual parking garage maintenance highlights there is right before the pandemic, we had issued a contract for a contractor to do the expansion joints out there. Because of travel restrictions and all that, that project got removed or we weren't able to continue. So we are now moving forward to rebid that project so we can do it in the spring. Along with that, we will be redoing the stairwells. They need a lot of work. There's some condensation issues and stuff like that. If you walk through them, they're just terrible. So that's being worked on. As everybody's aware, as you did approve, we signed a $2.3 million contract with MEI, electrical contractor, to put all new lighting and alarm system in the garage. I've asked for schedule values and other things. I do have the schedule of values, but not in the format I needed it. But they can't do that until we have a schedule because we want to know when they're going to spend the money, just not on which subject. So that project is progressing through how we're going to get that done over time, because there's relocation of vehicles and it's a whole host of different things that we need to do over the next couple of years to get that project done. So parking garage stuff will start picking up again. You know, it got kind of put on hold during the pandemic. The TIP project, we moved forward to the closeout package similar to the taxiway golf project. The FAA holds 10% of our money until we get the project closed out. So on a $16 million project, that's another $1.6 million. That's not in our bank. That's in the FAA until we get that project closed out, which is a significant item. Residential sound insulation pilot program. Happy to report that the contract's been issued for those homes to start construction in the spring of those improvements for those was 9 homes, but 8. And then 1 got moved into the next phase, but still will be done at the same time, just the way things work financially with the FAA funding. Taxiway Alpha Mill and Overlay, that's set. You've approved that project to start in the spring. We've heard from the FAA that we are going to receive the remainder of the money to do that project in whole. So we'll be coming back for about a $1.4 million increase to that project. So it all gets done. We're preparing the memos and stuff right now, which is good news. So we don't have a part of a project hanging out there, due to limitations in funding is why it's gotten broken up. So, but now we're going to be able to move forward that second part, and it won't have any impact on construction because by the time we get through all that process and the grant issued, they'll be at that point, hopefully later this summer, and we'll be able to finish the project and its entitlement. And even if we finish it, we still can get reimbursed for the money. Residential sound installation phase 1, that contract's been signed for those 7 or 8 homes to have those improvements done. We are progressing through the identified 54 homes for review and design, so we can get those out to bid before grant application in mid-April for that. The news we heard, Nick and I heard today from talking to the FAA, we were on a $5 million a year program. They are programming the entire amount, which is like over $7 million, which is good news. There's no guarantee, obviously, but they are progressing in that direction to give us that whole amount to do to knock down those next 54 that we're designing right now. We are on a $5 million program. We'll see how that happens. But that $7+ million not only includes those 54 homes based on the price we received, average price we received last year, but also is another $1 million+ to do the design, outreach, and everything else for the next 54 homes or 50 homes, whatever we come up with by April 15th. So that's good progress there. That's a huge chunk of work.
Excuse me,
yeah.
do we anticipate the per house cost on average to be the same going forward, or is there just always gonna
Right
be-
now, that's what I use for the preliminary information for the grant number, okay? We won't know that until we bid it. I think it's gonna take some time to bring it down because I think we need more interest in contractors to do it locally. Right now, we don't have the contractor we have now is not a local contractor, okay? He specializes in it and does this all across the country. But I think, we need to put some effort into trying to get more local contractors involved. They will sub to local contractors and stuff, the people that we've hired. But, I've talked to some contractors about this, and there's concern about that size of project. We're dealing with 50 different homeowners. Okay, that's a handful,
Uh-huh.
So we'll work on that as time progresses to bring down the cost is what we're hoping for with more competition.
I think it's definitely gonna take some years before
Yeah.
we see any of that pricing actually come down,
Uh-huh.
both in the context of more experience. I think there is definitely an advantage this year to have a national company that's done noise mitigation and hiring local contractors to do that. But I think it's gonna take some time before that average 100,000 per house comes down. And
Well, I was just hoping it wouldn't keep going up.
That's
That
what we're-
was really my
well,
question.
it's probably
Do we have
likely.
anything set for a couple of years?
So the way I think of it, you have two things happening. You're gonna have inflation always that's gonna be bumping the edge of this, so those prices probably will go up. But as we work closest to the airport outbound, those prices are gonna come down because there's less
to do.
house that needs to go in. So it may work out, but that's completely hypothetical on my part.
We need some experience for this, so it's gonna take some time. So
And-
but we're moving forward, so.
So, and Efficiency Vermont or places like that are not able to assist in this? I mean, they don't do sound insulation, but
Yeah.
they
No, they
do
are.
insulation.
Yeah, no, they are. So Vermont Gas, Efficiency Vermont, Green Mountain Power, they've all grouped together to
Okay.
make sure that whatever they can do to support our funding needs. This is really led by Vermont Gas right now. They're gonna help support those funding needs if they are able to under their grant and program requirements, which is that 10% local share that we've talked about.
Sure.
And at the same time, have the opportunity to talk to homeowners to kind of advertise really their programs, whether it's a new hot water heater or whatever that none of this noise program would consider, but now is the attention of efficiency Vermont and whatnot to maybe do a 0% loan or one of their programs.
I was thinking of worker bees too. I mean, Efficiency Vermont goes into your home and does, or at least has contractors. So I was just curious if that
We talked to them. about it.
collaboration could help get
Yeah.
local.
I think they're struggling.
They're probably
With their
struggling to meet
numbers
the
already,
demand
too.
too.
Yeah, so we just need time with this
Okay,
to do
thank
better.
you.
One thing I'll add to the noise, unless you have noise exposure map on it.
Yeah, I'll keep going, then I'll let you know.
Robin, Robin, did you have a question on that particular point or?
Actually, going back to
Okay.
the taxiway Alpha, just wondering if when they start that work in the spring, is that going to impact runway 1 and 19? Are we going to have runway closures again, like we did last year? Or are we able to, is that going to be mostly off the side and not really impactful?
It will, and we're phasing that project, and we will be progressing through a plan in the next couple of months on how that will happen. Do you have anything other than that?
Yeah, it's definitely not gonna be as impactful as when we did some of the Bravo work, Charlie work, and really tying in. However, there is another tie-in to 119 that will require a closure of the runway, specifically at Taxiway Charlie, because Larry was able to get additional funding for that small corner over there. Bravo, I don't think we go all the way. We only go to the safety area, so it's a minimal impact. So yeah, generally, yes, there's gonna be some impact, not as long of a period of time. The more impact is to our terminal building that we need to watch really closely, because there's gate impacts that are gonna close temporarily access to
Jetway,
particular
yeah.
gates. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the runway could be partially open?
No,
No. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. It's closed. It's closed.
not unless we expend a significant amount of funds to repaint, relight, change the approaches. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right.
I know. So, but are we looking at weeks, months?
I don't remember off the top of my head what Charlie closure is. I think it was a 4-week closure when we tied in last time,
Yeah.
but I'm not 100%.
But
sure.
yeah, but not Charlie, but 1 and 19.
Yeah. Yeah, Rob, we can get back to you on that. We're working with the contractor now on all that, so we have a plan. So, by next month's meeting or whenever you're available, stop by, or I can let
Okay.
you know, so.
Will do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, moving on, number 17, I say gate 12 because that's what it was, but the new gate 9 jet bridge contract's been signed with the contractor. We're moving through the shop drawings and all that type of stuff now, so we can have that built by summer. So we will be able to access planes directly from the new terminal project. The South Apron Taxiway Golf Extension. We are pretty much finished with any questions from the FAA. They had one last thing today, which I thought we were done. And we're hoping that I have all enough time, Marie.
He's stalled.
I'm almost done. All right. So anyway, so we're pretty much finished. We're just waiting on the grant and finishing up some permitting. We had some stormwater issues we had to resolve and adjust with the permit agencies to get that. And we're anticipating starting construction on that in the spring. The environmental assessment, that is to review the environmental impacts of the obstructions and the approaches found in the master plan. Contract's been signed. There is a 1-year deadline on that to be finished with the FAA with that assessment. So we'll know those obstructions and what environmental impacts will be to resolve those impacts, obstructions. North Terminal Improvements Project, which Nick will probably hit on a little bit more, which I provided some pictures of, is underway. The escalators as of tomorrow will be totally gone. In my pictures, you'll see they were only partially worked on, but they'll be gone as of tomorrow, the old ones, and everything's progressing with removal of glass and that type of thing in the old TSA area. The North Terminal project with the new passenger boarding bridges, passenger, what did I do? PBB.
Passenger boarding.
Passenger boarding bridge there, okay. $38 million project. Nick will report on that, I'm sure, later on the funding for that project. We've got good news there. And then to my last page, we had a great meeting today on the new SRE storage building and maintenance shop. We're progressing along the programming and siting and grading plan to make sure it's going to work where we're looking to put it. And within a week or so, we will be able to meet internally with maintenance people so they can see what we're looking at and how they can add to that, get input from them because they experience it every day. Runway 1533, that's a large project that's coming in 2024, the rehabilitation of the main runway. We had our scoping session with the FAA and that's moving forward accordingly. Airfield pavement condition management plan will be, we're working on that. Noise use reuse plan on some of the houses that have been purchased over the last 5 or 10 years that weren't included in the original one is being worked on. And then, of course, I already reported on the residential sound insulation program, phase 1, but phase 2 will be that next money spent next year to do the next 50 houses that is coming along. And that's all I got right now. Any questions?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna add about the noise exposure map update. We're making progress, signing contracts, moving forward with that process. Our hope is by no later than the end of this year, but I think it's gonna be much closer to the September timeframe. That will be publishing the final noise exposure map. There's a lot of things in between. Starting in March, we're going to reconvene the noise committee and bring partners back from South Burlington, Winooski, and other towns to report more in depth of the programs that Larry's explaining to tonight, but also the progress of the noise exposure map. And of course, the progress of the insulation program itself. We're hoping to do that in March. We're still organizing internally before we send invitations and really program that new process out. Because there's, as you can tell, there's a lot of noise programs that we're working on. Noise exposure map, noise reuse updates, noise insulation, multiple phases. So I think reconvening this would be very much appropriate to add some communication.
I just had a question, and I think you're the person to ask. Where are we with the hotel?
I think you should ask Nick that.
Is this the time to ask that?
Yeah.
It is sort of construction.
It absolutely is. So, COVID certainly didn't help, and to bring our new commissioners up to speed. Prior to COVID, we did sign a ground lease agreement, essentially a concession agreement with a developer to build a brand new hotel. This would be on the north side of our parking garage and an existing parking lot. COVID, of course, stalled that, and the justification, the demand, and maybe more importantly, the funding opportunities for this developer to build this were no longer there.
Oh.
So we kept an option agreement going with this hotel company because they bid on this and they were selected on this. Part of the RFP included this option agreement. That option agreement does today go to the end of March of this year, of just a few months from now. Most likely it may be extended. And in the meantime, we are working with this developer who has since changed partners.
The same developer.
The same developer, DEW was the corporation that won the bid. Same developer, they brought in a hotel management company because DEW doesn't manage hotels, but they can bring a partner. They started a BTV Hotel LLC company to jointly manage this hotel with the construction and the day-to-day aspects of it. The original partner of theirs is no longer a partner. Through COVID, they've shifted around a couple of partners. They now have a brand new partner that they're introducing the city and the airport to. I'm very confident in this new partner. They seem like an extremely experienced and amazing fit, especially for managing hotels at airports. However, this new partner and DEW now would like to look at the terms of the agreement a little bit differently. So we're actively negotiating the possibility of bringing back it over the course of this year. This is not going to be a this year project anymore.
But it's not dead.
It's not dead. The design of it shifted. The possibility of a hotel name has shifted. The brand name has shifted possibly. So there's a lot of pieces that are being negotiated right now, and including the permit, because the actual footprint may change as well. So we would have to go through they would have to go through that process again.
Okay, thank you.
Greg, you have oh, sorry. Greg, you have a question?
I hope it's next year.
Any more questions?
Greg has a question.
Oh, hey, Greg.
Hi, Greg Shepler, Commissioner from Burlington. Just announcing myself because our new policy and procedures request that if we're on Zoom, and also just to introduce myself to the new commissioners and welcome them. Have a question, I guess, for Larry. Just a clarification. First of all, Larry, thanks for having your hands on everything and being knowledgeable about everything that's happening. I do want to go back to the issue related to the lighting and alarms in the parking area. And looking at your memo, it sort of sounded like we were reevaluating that sort of situation. I'm sure that doesn't mean that the effort is on hold, but I'm just could you just clarify where we're at with that? I just think it's an important issue. We've been getting a lot of.
I may have left something old in there, but I'll go back and look at that, Greg. But we're not reevaluating anything. This contract was more like a design build type contract. So phasing and all that type of thing. We did spec all the type of lighting we want, all that type of thing. So the contractor now is taking those specs, evaluating, getting shop drawings so our engineer can review it for consistency with what we asked for, and preparing a plan of approach, because they can only do portions of the garage at a time because we need to be actively using it. So it's all going to take time. There's no reevaluation of anything. We are moving forward full force with that project. I need their schedule and their plan of attack. We're also making some adjustments on on how cars travel to the parking garage potentially the same time, because we're going to be closing down portions of the garage. So there's a lot of pieces that come into play. So we need their solid plan of approach, and then we'll work with them, having our knowledge of how the garage works to get all that done. But there's no reevaluation of anything. We are moving forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Right. Jeff, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, thanks, Tim, and welcome again to the new commissioners. I'm Jeff Schulman. I'm commissioner from Burlington as well. Good to have you with us. Look forward to meeting you all in person. I wanted to just bring up a couple of the items in this report around the north and south terminal. Those are pretty big projects that are being discussed. If I don't know if it's Larry or Nick, if you could just update us on where those are in the approval process. Have we, and I apologize if I don't recall it, has that all been sort of presented to us and approved? And then also on the financial side, what portion of those, and I guess it depends on where we're at in the process, but what portion of those costs would have to be absorbed by the airport, and what is our thinking in terms of funding that?
I can take the first stab, Nick, if you want, and then take it from there. Okay. So with the North Concourse relocation, the large one that we talked, the $38 million one. All right, we have signed, which has been before you, a 30% contract for preliminary design and 30% design of that project. The funding, Nick will report on in a little while. There's good news on that. So if we build, when we build that project, it'll be like a typical FAA project. We'll be responsible for 10% of that local funds. Okay, 10, which is significant, right? As far as, and now let me go around, then I'll come back. The South Concourse, I think we were competing for that money originally. We asked for the whole amount to do that, and we realized through learning the system and what was becoming available for those competitive dollars that they wouldn't give us all that amount of money at one time. So we revisited that, and we've only applied for the design only of that. As part of that, the FAA has asked us for a financial plan, which we have Rakonda working with Marie on right now to lay all this out, because they want to know where the money's coming from, that 10%. Also, if they give us that $3 million to design the South, they want to make sure it gets done, right? Like anything else, they've got comfortable with this and they're giving us design only grants, but that's still a lot of money. So by the time all that happened, there is a potential source to even get that done if we don't get it through grants, although we'll exhaust every effort to get that money. So Nick and Marie, help me here. I guess that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, I think you captured the bullet points, Larry. So like Larry said, the North being designed right now, just kicked it off. We've talked about some high level architectural visions, really just a vision board essentially of what we need, what operational items we need, and we'll come back over the course of this year, time and time again, to update you on how that progress is going to ultimately the final design, and theoretically, by mid next year, mid 2024, calendar year 2024, at the latest, I would say, we would be ready to bid this out. I'll talk about it right now. Anyways, so as part of the final swing of Senator Leahy, and as he was outbound and as the omnibus bill passed, the $34 million has officially made it into the omnibus bill package with Burlington International Airport's name on it, which is massive, historical, and the highest that I could see, the highest amount given to any airport in the country for a terminal project. This is substantial. This is substantial, but there's financial risk associated with it on the part of the 10% share. This is still a typical FAA granting process that occurs. So we're talking $3.5 million here. This project also includes renovating the second floor entirely. It's also includes new jet bridges if the funding total is available, although that's priority number 3 for us. There is PFC source availability for this 10% share, but working with Marie and Rakonda, we really need to make sure that the full financial analysis of not just how was the original building built, because we're demolishing it. So there's some items associated with what needs to happen with FAA on that. It looks like no federal funds were used for that in the past, but we still need to confirm that. And then of course how we can fund the local share. On the South, the same concept, just a longer time period. Although we are working hard, extremely hard, to get this design only grant, which is a complete shift in what the FAA has normally allowed. They typically did not allow design only grants because they now were at risk that the project wasn't going to get built because an airport sponsor wouldn't have been able to afford it. They're now kind of reverting that decision on a local level and allowing these design only grants, especially to airports like Burlington that has consistently committed and built the projects that we've designed year and year and year and year. But again, the time frame is longer. the opportunities for additional funding that Larry was referring to comes from bonding. And when I talk about bonding, and this is really the first time we've talked about this publicly, but I'm really comfortable doing it, is there's a lot of work that needs to happen between now and 2030. We are debt free just about at the end of 2030. And it gives us an opportunity to not only design and compete for additional construction funding, but also show the FAA that we are extremely serious for the need, the justification, and the financial ability to carry this project to full construction with or without FAA funding sources. And if we're debt free, there is an opportunity to go after healthy debt in our next phase of bonding to build what we really need. And again, this all goes back to this three priorities that we talk about all the time: the parking of an aircraft and the ability to park an aircraft of any size, the capacity of that larger aircraft to have hold room space on the inside of the airport, seating and whatnot, and the TSA security screening capacity. We've solved the TSA screening capacity. We need to solve the hold room space on the interior, which is what these two buildings will allow, and concurrently allow larger aircraft to park at the airport. So all three massive priorities being solved with this 7-year plan.
Yeah, I'd like to add, and we're not sitting around on this because just today, with discussions with the FAA, they want that financial plan, because I think, it's just my sense, there's no guarantee, that they might consider giving us that design only money in that competitive process, and they need to see our plan right away. In fact, I talked to Maria already about that today, and we've already scheduled a meeting with Recondo to push this forward. So we can be moving all these pieces at the same time.
Yeah, so yeah, we have multiple meetings with Recondo set up over the next couple of weeks.
See that.
But Recondo, the company that we work with on the financial piece, has helped us with PFC applications. They know our finances. They're really in tune with FAA procedures as well. So really allows us to take this total 3-phase build out of the new terminal building to full conception.
Great, thanks for that update, and great news about the grant. It's awesome. So
yeah, we're very excited. Got a lot of work on our shoulders, a lot of work on Larry and Marie and Shelby and Hannah's shoulder, everybody's shoulders. Dave, who couldn't make it tonight, and sets us up for probably what I'm going to be talking to you at the next meeting, which is why we absolutely need to reorganize the airport, reorganize our org chart, get additional support, so I can support the leadership team and what resources they need to accomplish these massive historical goals over the next 7 years, and support the women and men that are working out on the front lines every single day, ambassadors to maintenance to operations. Right now, right now, this is the team right here that is managing almost a $200 million capital program and approximately 50 staff. And it's very challenging, very difficult to make sure that we are and stay the best airport that we can, the greenest airport that we can. So a lot of this pertains to improving the airport and succeeding each one of these, making these projects, each one of these successful. Yeah, that's my
That was good. Yeah.
Larry, just a quick question for you on normally our batting average with the FAA is really good, but I noticed on the de-icing system that they decided not to fund that. I'm curious if you have any explanation on that.
Okay, well, I have set up a meeting to discuss that with them. We think it's eligible. They don't think it is. They did pay for a system 7 years ago, so it was eligible then. And what we have researched, we feel it is eligible. and again, another thing that just happened today, we had a progress meeting on how we're moving forward with that system. So we are not giving up. I actually asked the FAA for a meeting to discuss the way we understand the rules on why that's eligible. So not giving up, Tim.
A lot of that does have to do with the timing, Tim, of useful life of the project, of the build out of a previous project, what we built in the past, what we're trying to improve.
And also the sustainability and environmentally, I think we need to start thinking the next steps with that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, just keep us updated with how that goes. All right, commissioners, any other questions for Larry? All right, thank you, Larry, for your report. We appreciate it. Marie, you're up next, item 7, the financial report.
Very good. So for the benefit of all of our new folks here, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Marie Friedman, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer here. So hello to all of you, and we're happy to have you on board. I just want to say that. So each month I prepare a financial report that will look like this with some of the highlights. I try to do a write-up that you can have a chance to look at. And I go through all of the items for the write-up during our meeting, and then, I answer any questions that anybody might have. So try to give you an idea of how we're doing, how we're doing this year. A lot of what we're looking at because of COVID and the effect it had on the airport starting in 2020, we go back, and a lot of the comparisons we're looking to 3 years ago. So like we call it like pre-COVID, we're looking at 2019, and we look and see how revenues have recovered, because revenues are still not 100%. Some of the revenues are exceeding, but we are doing very, very well. So I'm trying to give a sense of our recovery. So you'll get that flavor as we talk about the financials from month to month. So this report is including the November revenues and expenses. And so we'll talk about that. And also I look at the revenue recovery that we have. There's a chart in here that looks at that. The cash report showing all of our cash balances and all of our accounts and reserves, as well as what we call our AIP, which is our grant receivable report. Those are through the end of December, because that information I have. A quick summary. The airport was very fortunate during COVID that we received 3 very large stimulus grants. So I have a section here where I sort of update each and every month how much money that we got and how much money we've spent on those stimulus grants. And we have a CARES Act, which was the first bucket of funds we got, which was $8.7 million. These are significant monies that we got and needed to help us when we had loss of passengers and loss of number of flights for a while. And then we got we call it the CARISA grant, and that was $4 million. And then we got the airport received the $7.6 million under the American Rescue Act. We have spent what we needed to spend. We will be spending, you'll start to see that those grants, we're going to be doing some more drawdowns on that. We are balancing that with the upcoming projects, this big project in the garage Larry was talking about, the lighting project, and we're doing fire alarm safety stuff in the garage as well. All of that project is we have to balance our revenues that are coming in as a whole with all of our expenses that are going out. So our expenses are going to go a little higher in the repair and maintenance as we rev up through the rest of this year and into next year. So we'll start drawing down more of that, we'll call it the stimulus grant money. Over the next few months, you'll see some activity there. Our year-to-date revenues through November were about $11.3 million. That was $2.5 million, or 28% increase compared to the same time last year. So sometimes I compare to last year, sometimes I compare to 3 years ago. So we're very pleased, from a financial standpoint, we're seeing very strong growth, even in a year out from last year. That is good. Now, some of that recovery, or some of those revenues that are coming in, is related to a new activity that we have. We've now had a full year of our car rental QTA, which is our quick turnaround facility. So there are some revenues, about $320,000 in gas that we haven't on expense side, but we've also then gotten reimbursement for. on the revenue side. So a few of the revenues are related to the activity that we have with the QTA. Some of the expenses are a little higher because of that operation, but those expenses are fully covered either directly from the car rental companies or in the case of a lot of the operating of the QTA, those are covered by the CFCs, which is a customer facility charge that we have, that when somebody rents a car, there's the CFC charge that gets added onto each daily rate. So I'm pleased with the revenues. Like, I'm very, very happy. Our parking garage revenues for the first 5 months of this year, our fiscal year runs July 1st through June 30th. So it's different than a calendar year, just to let you know how the airport is looking at this. But our revenues for the first 5 months in the garage were 102% of our pre-COVID numbers. So people are using the garage. They're coming here, maybe they're parking here more, parking here longer. I know I see a lot of Canadian traffic returning in the garage. When I walk through, I see a lot more of that that's returned. So we know that they're flying and they tend to park for longer. So those revenues are really strong in the garage, and I'm excited to see that. Because pre-COVID, our garage numbers were the strongest that year, that period we'd seen ever. So if I'm saying they're even stronger now, that's a very good trend for us. Which will prove challenging when we are doing those upgrades and renovation. We worry about, we plan on timing of when the garage usage does have some seasonality to it. And we take that into account when we plan any work that we do in the garage. The expenses through November were $6 million. It's higher than it was a year ago. This is in line with what I expected. We pay for the fuel, so for the QTA, which is an expense to us, but then we charge the car rental companies for all their usage. So it's a net zero, actually. They pay for the utilities, and then the operating cost of the quick turnaround is, as I mentioned, is covered by the CFC companies. We are seeing some expenses in our salaries this year in our overtime and custodial contracts. The custodial contract is specifically related to our opening of this very large new TIP project, this beautiful building that we have, which we do all of our screening in. We have to pay to keep that clean. So that's added to our custodial. But as far as overtime, even though we have some positions we haven't filled in a period of time, we did have the city as a contract. They increased salaries as of July 1st, and it was quite more significant than I've ever seen in my time here, almost 30 years with the city. So it was 7.2% cost of living adjustment, like a one-time thing. And we're seeing that in a lot of industries and other workplaces, but that is what the city agreed to. So that is going to be reflected. My salaries will be higher, and we will see that. As far as our cash continues to be very strong. We had $5.2 million in our airport checking account. So I'm very pleased with that. Sets us up to, be in a very good position to cover all these upcoming expenses without having to worry about timing. And the amount that was owed to us by the FAA was about $6 million as of December, though we just got a $1.6 million reimbursement in on one of our projects. So it's a constant flow of we have to pay for these grants, we make an expenditure on it, and then we get reimbursed on all of our grants. And that's just how it works. We don't get the money up front for a grant. We go ahead, we contract the projects, we pay those bills, and then we get reimbursed by the FAA. So I guess I'll point out the revenue analysis chart. So this is a rolling, those dots are like a rolling 12-month average. And what this report is intended to do is it shows you over time, and you can see over time how we compare to prior to COVID, what happened during COVID, and then how we're coming, how are we doing today compared to that? It's really interesting to take a look at that. So that is, not sure if that's me or not. Sorry about that. So that in a nutshell is the finance report, but I will entertain any questions that anybody might have. Okay. Potential spam, sorry.
All right, commissioners, any questions for Marie?
Very good. If anybody ever has any questions, you can always feel free, especially as our newer folks here get acclimated and start looking at this more. I welcome any questions.
All right, thank you, Marie. We'll move on now to item 8, which is our noise program update. And so Hannah, if you can lead us in that, please.
So we have a noise monitoring and flight tracking system installed at 3 different locations within the parameters of what was approved by the FAA. So we have one of the monitors is located in Winooski, one in Chamberlain School in South Burlington, and one in Williston. So we report on, we have that data at btvsound.com, and that information is also located on, as I said, has the portal run by Vector Software that you can go to also submit a comment if you want to submit feedback. And what I do each month is share that data in terms of feedback related by town, the number of comments by town, and which are a bunch of neighboring towns that I put on the most recent slide, and also by aircraft. So we typically break them up that way. Also, we have a heat map that shows the clusters from some of the prominent areas where people have reported hearing noise in those surrounding communities. So we have a running, it's on cumulative amount of the comments. So from when we started in June 2021 to present, we have around 500 comments. And like I said, they're broken out in specific sections by town, aircraft, and by location.
And Hannah, can you also comment on our frequent commenters and how that affects some of this data for our new commissioners?
Winooski's been a little active lately.
Yeah, so we a lot of the South Burlington residents know to submit comments to the guard, but we have specific residents who are repeat commenters, and that has so we used to do it by individual commenter, and that kind of you can see how that would skew the data. So we've now been reporting it by town.
Great, thank you, Hannah. Commissioners, any questions or observations on this information?
Well, just an observation. Last month, the dot Winooski wasn't nearly that large. So I'm just wondering, is it just that a group of people who are activated, maybe Jim has an idea about this, or was there a change in flight patterns that seem to affect Winooski more than it did the month before?
Yeah, so remember, these are individual commenters.
Right.
So that 65 number is one person commenting 65 times, or one person commenting.
So that's
200
provide some clarity. Yes, those are the individual commenters. We've just mapped it out so you can get a better understanding of where they're located.
We can dive into that a little bit more specifically on that.
Yeah, I was just curious because we haven't that. And do we
This one too, I don't remember this one.
follow up and meet with these people?
Sometimes.
Try to have a dialogue about,
I know.
call and
Yeah.
Yes, sometimes we do, and the noise commenting system allows us to respond to something or give additional information, because it'll automatically tag flight track information to the time frame that the comment was submitted. So it at least allows us to have either a conversation protocol or saying, this is what happened. The radar information says that plane was 600 feet above your house at this time. Maybe it was an anomaly on a flight track, so we can have that conversation and work with FAA. It's extremely rare, especially in the local environment. None of our flight paths have been adjusted, and most of that is controlled by FAA and
Yeah.
standard procedure, departure procedures.
Cranky jeans.
So, yeah, so it could be, or it could be a new resident that wasn't aware, or now is aware, so it could be a lot of different scenarios, but that does intrigue me, not just the one in New City, but also the one by Taft's Corners over there too. I'd be curious.
Does the Air Guard still have their own noise complaint hotline?
They do, and that's a really good question, because those numbers are not in this information. This is strictly just the airport's noise monitoring system and online noise comment system that has these.
How does this system determine what airplane it was? Does the complainer say it was an F-35?
That's correct.
Yes, so it's
So is
the
anybody
information, it's the information submitted by the commenter.
Okay.
Well, two ways.
Well, they can find out.
Right, so let's take military off of the conversation just for a quick second. So when a commenter submits a comment, there is radar track information associated with the noise monitors that can actually identify and correlate a comment, a time, a place in the actual aircraft.
Assuming that the commenter has an accurate time.
That's correct, because they have to submit or revert to a time that they experience that, except for F-35s, because we do not have radar information on F-35s. We have, and you'll know this, but we have a single F-35 if they're in a pair or a group of four, because that one aircraft on the lead aircraft will be identifying marking a very unique code, and that can be picked up. However, the radar track kind of goes like this, because it's not true radar information, and we don't have that information. So we cannot correlate a military, specifically an F-35, on that scenario, and then every aircraft behind it, similar to what just happened right now. None of those, well, few of those are squawking anything but 000 or something very not the same. So we cannot track that either. So it does not correlate to the noise monitors, however, is pretty clear that it's a military aircraft, and it typically does correlate to the time frame that these comments are submitted.
And I think typically the people in South Burlington and Winooski who were, so actively opposing that, no, not to complain here, but to complain to the guard.
Right. As I said, it was
So I think
as it-
these are different people who maybe are new to the area, as you're suggesting, or just haven't been part of that longer conversation or debate, so they don't even know.
And did you have a number like 75% of the call or comments were like from 3 addresses or something like that?
Well, we actually have, like we were just talking about on the actual, that heat map, it lists all of the individuals, but it's a very small percentage of people that the individual comments come from.
It's just over 75%, Larry. I would say close to 80% are for commenters.
It's typical 95.5%.
One other thing on this, because just picking up on something Helen said, we had talked about potentially trying to get an overlay of this chart with the typical F-35 flight path. Is that a possibility?
You mean
Oh,
the planes?
Yes, it could be with the predominant plane, general aviation, I think, comes from all directions and places, but most of the noise complaints tend to revolve around the F-35. And so if we knew what the F-35 typical flight path looked like, it'd be interesting to map that up against where we're hearing the noise complaints from.
Yeah, I don't have any recent information, but I have the information from our 2019 noise exposure map, which is it's going to be substantially similar radar data. And what we can do is work with Diane to pull it's another heat map that comes from the radar track, and I think that would look really great on this. It's not. It unfortunately it doesn't say this is an F-35 or this is a Cessna 172. It's all radar information for that 1 year period of time.
Okay. Because I know when we looked at the flight paths before, it looked like at least to me, looked like a plate of spaghetti with, lines going in every which way.
That's why I'm thinking the heat map is better, because it just takes all of those lines and actual radar information of aircraft arriving and departing, and just puts a brighter line where there's more frequent aircraft flying and a lighter line where there might only be 1 or 10 events throughout the year. But it would correlate, I think, really nicely with this particular.
Okay, great. Thank you.
A few more red dots. Big ones.
All righty, commissioners, any other comments on the noise presentation? All right, thank you, Hannah. We'll move on now to item 9, which is the director's report.
All the good news.
So I spoke about what I really wanted to speak about earlier, which is congratulating the team in the airport and the commission, the city council on $34 million coming to the airport. We're working with FAA right now on administering that, like Larry said, designing the new North Terminal expansion project.
Not expansion.
I keep
Replacement.
Yeah, I think I'm going to use expansion because we are expanding.
Okay.
We're growing.
Okay.
We're healthily growing the airport, and that's, like I said before, unprecedented, historical. Super excited to go through that. I won't go through it again, but very, very excited to go through that. The North renovation project is highly intrusive right now. This is under construction right now. This is a $2 million project happening on our north concourse area. Like Larry said, the escalators are being removed. There's some big temporary walls. Hannah's getting very creative with how we're advertising it and displaying what's coming next to that area. And it's going to look very different for the United and American Airline passengers in just a few short months after that. In a few short months, I could say. More seating. Hudson News up on the north side will be relocated. We have a new 3D dimensional graphic. Maybe you can send that out to the commissioners. That shows what the new space will look like. We've ordered 2 new automatic exit lanes, which will help us be more efficient in scheduling and our operations of our staff, and add a security element that we've never really seen before at this airport. Again, these are automatic security lanes. If you've flown in and out of a lot of airports, you'll notice that nobody's sitting or standing at an exit door anymore. You literally walk through this contraption of this cube of a machine, and it automatically lets you out. If you turn around, we'll know that you turned around. There's going to be lots of alarms. Everybody will know that you've turned around. The doors will lock on you, and we'll be able to respond appropriately.
Some of them like 4 doors.
You got it. Yeah, ours won't be that big. So we're working with TSA. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Ours will have 2 doors on them, front and the back. And there's going to be 1 north, 1 south. So that's part of the North renovation $2 million project. Hudson News relocating, Skinny Pancake expanding. I am working with both of those companies and negotiating probably a longer term for both of those companies because both want to reinvest into the airport with substantial amounts of funds because of these relocated efforts. Those are the two good news that I can share with you today. I do have one sad news for you, and it has to deal with Shelby Lozier. Unfortunately, this Friday will be Shelby's last day with the airport. Shelby, I'm super excited for Shelby. Can't thank her enough for the 8+ years that she's helped build our team, build our airport. She's going to be incredibly missed across this 900 acres here for a long time. So good luck, Shelby, and I hate announcing that. So maybe you'll change your mind.
Yeah.
Earlier today, it was days, then weeks, another month, then he said today years.
So you can spend a couple more years. Not a big deal. But super excited for her.
Thank you.
Not happy to see her leave, but also happy for her and her future.
Are you staying around here or?
I am.
Oh, good.
It's funny. That's the
You
question
can
I
always
get.
come back.
There,
Doing part-time.
that's right. There's new opportunities as part of this reorganization. Like I said, hopefully.
Is that what
I'll be
I
able
was
to
asked, if
present
you're
this
staying
to you.
around?
It's funny. People my age say, "Are you getting out of here?" And then people who are
My age say you're
older,
staying,
"Okay,
right?
you're staying, right?" It's a funny divide, but I appreciate that people care where I'm going, so that's nice. So thank you.
And that's all from me tonight.
All right, thank you, Nick, and thank you, Shelby, for everything you've done for the airport. We all appreciate that.
Thank you.
You do indeed.
All right, so next up is item 10, which is commissioner items. So for our new commissioners, generally what we like to do in this segment is if you have something that you want to report on, usually a constituent matter or something like that, this is the forum for that. We do request that you submit this in advance. And we'll get into that a little bit when we get to item 11, but you're certainly welcome to bring up anything that you want to discuss at this time, even if it hasn't been submitted in advance. So commissioners, do you have anything that you would like to talk about this afternoon?
Nope.
Okay, we're good. So we'll move on to section 11, which is follow-up items. So this is a section where we take note of sort of lingering issues from previous meetings that we need to keep working to get across the finish line. Today we have just one, which is item 1101, the Airport Commission Rules and Procedures. So in this month's agenda packet, you all received a copy of the, I guess I would call it final draft of the commission rules and procedures. This is, I want to thank all commissioners that have contributed to this process and those commissioners before us who drafted these original rules that we've modified. But we've reached a point where I believe that the document you received today reflects all the input from the commissioners that I've received. It also has been vetted by the city attorney's office as well. So I believe that this is going to be the final document. So we aren't going to be voting on this today, but we will be voting on this at the February meeting. So please give this a final look over. Let me know if you have any questions. If so, we can certainly modify it. I'm not saying this has to be the final document, but assuming we don't get any major proposed changes, we will plan on voting on this at the February meeting.
Will the
Yes,
new schedule then go into effect in March?
Yes,
So our first
so
meeting in March will, good.
yes, so our meeting right now, yeah. So our meeting right now, it's a good question. So our meeting right now is the 15th of February for the February meeting. If this is adopted, the meeting will be on March. The following meeting will be on March 1st.
Okay.
So to add a little.
Unless Nick wants to move it around for timing of other.
You know what I'm gonna ask. January was unique just because of the holidays, and I think it worked out very well for us to come tonight versus the first week of January. But I would like to request that the commission consider the first week of February rather than the third or the February meeting, which happens to be on February 1st this year. There's a couple of things that we'd like to present to you to prepare the Board of Finance City Council for those February meetings. And then still, now, if it was passed at that first week, what you were saying, Tim, then it would be a regular meeting in March, the first week every.
Okay, so we're proposing to, I guess the technical process for this is we're proposing to cancel the regularly scheduled meeting on the 15th and hold a special meeting on February 1st.
Correct.
Got it. So commissioners, just I'd like you all to weigh in with your thoughts on availability for that. Is there anyone who cannot make that?
I'm available.
Okay. So unfortunately, I will not be available on the 1st. I actually will be at a board meeting in Pittsburgh on that day. So Jeff, I guess I will coordinate with you to lead this in my absence 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I think I'm available for the meeting, but I'm out of town, so I could probably do it remotely, but so that's which is fine, but I just want to make sure you knew that.
Okay, that should be fine.
We'll keep it light, as light as possible.
Light and happy, no
Light
number
and
of
happy.
people leaving.
No.
So Nick, just so I'm clear, so that would be a special meeting, not a regular meeting?
Technically, yes, yeah.
So we would not have all the normal agenda items. It would just be like, I know sometimes we've had meetings just to help
one item.
support.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking 2 weeks from now, so there most likely will not be a financial report update.
Okay.
Larry will have minimal updates, if any, on a construction package. There's gonna be a few action items on that. There may be an executive session on that to talk about personnel and reorganization. But and then consent and those normal types of things. But yeah, it's technically a special.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, so I hear sort of a consensus from commissioners to move forward with this schedule change. So we will plan on our next meeting being the 1st.
Well, so Tim, are you, and we can talk about this offline, but this is also going to be the vote potentially for the rules and procedures.
Yes.
Okay. And
So as long as we have, sufficient commissioners for a quorum, I think we're good. Certainly, I'll report back to everybody. I guess I would say if there are proposed changes to the document, if you can let me know, like in the next week, then that'll help affirm whether or not what we've presented today is the final. But I'm confident with the vote going through if I'm not present on the 1st.
Okay, great.
Great. So that wraps up item 11. And then also, I should say, also in item 11, if there's anything that came up during commission, this is mostly for commissioners, but if anything came up during the course of the meeting that we want to make sure that the airport staff follows up upon, we would just mention it here as a follow-up item. So commissioners, was there anything you heard today that you would like the airport staff to follow up on for our next commission meeting?
In 2 weeks, no.
Okay. Is there something broader than 2 weeks that you'd like to make note of?
Well, at some point, it would be really nice to have the overlay of the ear guards noise complaints. But I don't know how much, I don't think that's just a quick phone call and voila, it happens.
I meet with the wing commander and his staff usually twice a month. And I have asked for that information. They've summarized it, but not to this level of detail. They said there's some public records request we could submit it that potentially could go through that. But they've given me as much as they, I guess, can.
Yeah, I think we've gone through this before. This is just like an old Bill Keogh thing. I think we've tried this before and we didn't quite get what we were looking for, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But certainly the
public
overlay
records
of the flight
request,
path.
I don't know what that involves. An email probably. I mean, maybe you could just, not for 2 weeks, but maybe in
Yeah, we
March, yeah,
discuss that for.
March. Maybe we could have, you could have some follow-up with this as
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
is possible or not.
Great, thank you. So that closes follow-up items. Unless any commissioner has anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Helen. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Greg. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks everyone for coming today. It's good to
I
see you
wanna know
all.
where Greg is. It's pitch black over here and I see a reflection in his window that looks awfully nice.